by Jason Gossop, Sales and Revenue Manager, Carlton Park Hotel, coming to us from Ratherham, England. How are you, sir?
I'm really good. How are you, Jason?
I'm okay. All things considered. How about you? How has your personal experience been over the past 7, 8, 9 months?
Well, the pandemic seemed to hit quite quickly. In January, everything was fine, and then February there was a slowdown in pickup. And I remember sending the forecast over to the directors and saying, "I think coronavirus is starting to hit. It's starting to affect pickup." And they said, "What, coronavirus?" And I said, "Yeah, I think it's starting to hit." And at the time, they'd not heard much about it. And things slowed and slowed and slowed. We were furloughed. All the staff were furloughed. The hotel closed. Tried to limp on by selling takeaway food and just anything to pay the bills. And so the schools closed. I was responsible for. My wife was still working at the time, so I was responsible for homeschooling my little boy who's 5, which was not the easiest. They're less likely to want to learn when there's toys in the next room.
Right.
But he enjoyed it and came out of it okay. Taught him to ride his bike, and we did a little better at reading. And so once they went back to school, I really did quite a lot of learning. I did the Google Digital Garage course in digital marketing, which was really good. Upskilled in Excel. Listened to hundreds of podcasts, yours included, which I've really enjoyed. And yeah, I'm currently doing a SQL programming course, which is going well. And yeah, the hotel closed on the 1st of October, and that was it really.
What kind of hotel is it? It's Rotherham is north of London. It's kind of in a rural area, I think.
Very good. Do you know it?
No. I Googled it.
Yeah, we're in the suburbs, so we're nearest city is Sheffield. It's predominantly a business hotel, 80-room business hotel, strong corporate base. Hit particularly hard because one, we're not a tourist destination. You'd probably never go to Rotherham on holiday, so we didn't really capitalise on any of this staycation, which a lot of places did. And the other is that 50% of our revenue came from F&B, from food and beverage, from conferences, and obviously all that came to a grinding halt. So yeah, there was no corporate travel, no leisure, and no meetings and events. So I think that's kind of why we were hit so hard with it, really.
Yeah. And you're responsible for the sales and the revenue side of it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. How did the whole revenue management side and the sales side change for you?
I think the whole operation became a lot smaller. Everything was done in minuscule, really. And it has happened in a lot of hotels. Roles have merged. So previously you'd have a revenue manager, you'd have a sales manager, and you'd have a marketing manager. Well, staff have just been made redundant, and now one of those staff is responsible for all three. And I think there's been a lot of talk about commercial leaders recently. If you listen to people in the industry, there's a lot of talk about commercial leaders coming out of this, and that's someone that's responsible for sales and marketing and revenue management and cost control, and can kind of sit at a level just under the GM and pull the strings. And I think furlough's kind of accelerated that because of the merging of the three roles. I think this will become the commercial leader of the future. But the problem is that the tasks that this person has got to fulfill are entirely different to monitoring pickup and looking at pace and traditional revenue management tasks. Is this person looking at the bottom line? Is this person establishing a minimum price point? How many rooms do we need to sell, and at what price to break even? These are all skills that traditionally a revenue manager maybe is not looked at. But I think in the future, and certainly at this moment now where we sit, we're going to have to be looking at cost of acquisition. I mean, not every pound or dollar is created equally. If you're paying 20% and sometimes 30% have no commission on each pound. There's got to be some awareness of that. And so I think that the duties have entirely changed. Yeah, the traditional duties are still there. There's still a need for the daily looking at the pace report and the pickup and forecasting. It's just that I certainly had to, and a lot of others have taken on more responsibility. But that's for the good. That's the way that it's going.
What kind of data are you looking at when you were open?
Well, believe it or not, we're really lucky now because we've now got 8 months of historical data that we can look at throughout this pandemic, whereas in April we had no months, and March we had no months of historical data. So at least we've got some precedent set that we can kind of refer to. Competitor rates will always give you an idea of where we're sitting in terms of what demand's in the area. One thing that people don't really look at is value proposition when thinking about forecasting. So when someone's booking a room, they'll look at the rating on booking.com or Expedia and the facilities, but also the price, and weigh that up and see whether that fits their value proposition, what they deem to be good value. Now, if you're not at the top of this league table very often, then you're going to find that you don't fill first. So that's got to be accounted for in your forecasting. Macro level COVID data, what's happening with restrictions? Is your neighbouring country opening up? Do you expect a flood of tourism soon? Is it closing down and you expect the gates to close? We've got to try and kind of preempt that. Flight data, are any flights closing down? Are any opening up? What's travel like into the country? What's the search data for flights? And that gives you some idea of the want and the need and the desire to travel. Google Analytics, to look at Google Analytics and see how many people are hitting your site and what pages are they landing on and where are they coming from. Is there a lot of people in a neighbouring country that are visiting your site all of a sudden, and that would say that there may be some surge in demand for your hotel and your area. As we come out of it, exchange rates, maybe. I mean, if the exchange rate is favourable for Americans to travel to the UK, then we maybe have to look into the future and think, well, yeah, we may be inundated with Americans visiting our country. But that's obviously as we come further out into recovery. So I think we've got to kind of change what data we look at to accurately forecast, because obviously we've got very little historical data apart from the last 8 months.
Right. Any advice for the hoteliers out there still going through this?
I'd say get to know your numbers, because it's fine when things are going well. You know, you take a little dip in revenue and people are a little bit annoyed. But actually, if we take a little dip in revenue now, then we may have gone bust. We may be out of business. So, as I mentioned before, we've got to really look at minimum price points and break-even analysis to see kind of where we're sitting and to make sure that we've still got a business next month and next year. Be creative. I mean, what can we do? Can we sell takeaway food from the hotel? Can we rent the pool out to a swimming instructor? Can we convert a bedroom, a suite into a serviced apartment? Because that may be the way forward for some properties. What can we do basically to contribute to our fixed costs? Because the rent's the same on the property, the utilities are still there, and the wages are still there. So we've got to look at kind of what we can do to contribute to that fixed cost. And I think the last thing I'd say is just be careful of next year, because everything's going to be pushed into next year. Don't be so eager to take absolutely everything. Still look at displacement analysis to the best of our ability. Try and have a look how things are going to pan out, because it may be next year, in 12 months' time, when hopefully, fingers crossed, this is forgotten, that we may regret taking some of the business that we're actually taking now.
Right.
That's my advice.
All right. That's some good advice. Thank you, Jason, for joining me.
No problem. I've enjoyed it.